Percy had never been to the camp during the winter time before, and still, he was surprised to see some part of it was covered in snow. From what he had been told about the camp's magic borders, it had a magic climate control which protected them from strong weather. It kept out rain, snow, lightning, or anything else. Strong weather would only enter the camp if the director, Mr. D, wanted it to. "Wow, this place looks amazing," said Nico. "Is that a rock climbing wall over there? And hey, is that lava coming out of it?" "Yeah, that makes it a little more of a challenge," said Percy. "Come on, I'll introduce you to Chiron." "You could tell Chiron we'll be in cabin 8, Zoe said. "Let's go, hunters." Before Bianca followed them, she leaned over and whispered something in her brother's ear. She looked at him for an answer, but Nico just turned away. Percy could figure she had just broken the news to him right there. "Take care, sweethearts," Apollo called after the hunters. "Later, Thalia," he called, "and be good." He gave her a wicked smile, as if he knew something she didn't. "And Percy, watch out for those prophecies now, and I'll see you soon." "What? Wait, what do you mean?" he asked. Instead of answering, he hopped back into the sun chariot and took off in a blast. The second surprising thing about the camp was how empty it looked. Of course, campers only trained during the summer, so it was mainly a summer camp, but there was still some kids who stayed all year round. Ones who didn't have any homes or family to go to, or maybe because monsters would sniff them out easier than other campers, or even if they had bad relationships with their families. Today, there was hardly any. There was Selena Beauregard from the Aphrodite cabin, Charles Beckendorf from the Hephaestus cabin, and the Stoll brothers, Travis and Connor, from the Hermes cabin. If there was anyone else, there were just a few campers from the Ares cabin, and that was about it. Not even the camp bully, Clarice LaRue, seemed to be around. Inside the blue house, the camp director, Mr. D, aka Dionysus, the wine god, long story, was playing cards with the activities director, Chiron, as usual in the parlor. And yes, the same Chiron from the stories. He was a centaur with white fur, but now he was in that familiar wheelchair form Percy had first seen him in back before he learned who he really was. He usually wore a suit, but for the winter he wore a sweater and a blanket that covered his fake legs. "Percy, Thalia," he said, smiling. "Oh, and this must be—" "Nico D'Angelo," said Percy, "and his sister Bianca is outside." "Ah, so you succeeded then?" Chiron asked. "Well—" Then his smile melted. "What's wrong? And where's Annabeth?" "Oh dear, not another one lost," said Mr. D. Just then, Grover trotted into the room, grinning like crazy. He had a black eye and red lines on his face like slap marks. "The hunters are almost in," he said. "I see we have a lot to talk about," Chiron said. "Grover, why don't you take Nico and show him our orientation film?" "Oh, yeah, sure," Grover said. "Come on, Nico." When they left, Percy and Thalia did their best to explain to them what happened at the school. Of course, knowing them, it wouldn't be the first time a situation had happened right before leaving a school. Then Chiron looked at Mr. D and said, "We should launch a search for Annabeth immediately." I'll go," Percy and Thalia said at the same time. "Most certainly not," Mr. D said. "From what you had told me, we have regrettably lost Annabelle—" "Annabeth!" Percy snapped. "Whatever," Mr. D said. Annabeth had been going to Camp Half-Blood since he was 7 years old. You would have thought he'd already gotten bored of pretending to get her name wrong. "And you've recruited a small annoying boy to replace her," he said. "So I see no point in risking any further half-bloods on a ridiculous rescue. The possibility is very great that this Annie girl is dead." Percy wanted to strangle Mr. D so bad. It wasn't really fair that Zeus had put him here as camp director to punish him for 100 years for bad behavior, but it ended up being a punishment for all campers. Annabeth may be alive, Karen said. She is very bright, and if her enemies have her, she will try to play for time. She may even pretend to cooperate. Yes, that's right. Luke would want her alive, Thalia said. In which case, I'm afraid she will have to be smart enough to escape on her own, said Mr. D. You're glad to lose another camper, aren't you? Percy growled. You'd like it if we all disappeared. You have a point? Mr. D asked. Yeah, Percy growled. Just because you were sent here as a punishment doesn't mean you have to be a lazy jerk. This is your civilization too. Maybe the least you could do is try to help out a little, you big... Percy, Chiron said. Chiron's tone was full of warning, and deep down, Percy already knew Mr. D was not the right person to mess with. Even if you were an impulsive ADHD kid like Percy, he still wouldn't cut you any slack, but Percy was so angry he didn't care. Then Nico burst back into the room. This is so cool, he said in excitement. You're a centaur? He said, pointing to Chiron. Well, yes, though I prefer to stay in human form in this wheelchair for first encounters, Chiron told him. Then Nico pointed to Mr. D. And you're the wine dude? No way! Mr. D turned and gave him a look. Yes, the wine dude. Dionysus, right? Oh, wow. You know, everyone thinks you're the dumbest god, but I think your powers are cool. That little distraction might have saved Percy's life. That's gratifying, Mr. D'Angelo. Percy, Chiron said quickly, why don't you and Thalia do me a favor and go inform the campers we'll be playing Capture the Flag tomorrow evening? Capture the flag? He asked, but we don't have enough It's traditional when the hunters visit. Now off you go, then. Come on, Percy, Thalia said. She pulled him out of the house before Mr. D could remember that he wanted to kill Percy. You've already gotten Ares on your bad side, Percy, Thalia reminded him. Do you really need another immortal enemy? Percy did remember how he got into a fight with Ares, the war god, during his first quest a year and a half ago. And now, all of his children there at camp had hated Percy more than ever, so Thalia had a point. I'm sorry, he said. I couldn't help it. It's just so unfair. Everything's unfair, Percy, Thalia said. I mean, I first learned that Luke is lost and now Annabeth? Don't think like that, Percy said. We'll get her back. We'll find a way. I just don't know how yet. Yeah, you're probably right, said Thalia. By the way, Percy said, I'm sorry about what happened at Westover. I should have waited for you guys. It's okay. I probably would have done the same thing, Thalia said. And you know, you asked me about my mom before and I kind of snapped at you. It's just, I went back to find her after 7 years, and I found out she died in Los Angeles. Turns out she was a heavy drinker. I'm sorry, Percy said. Yeah, well, it's not like we were ever close. Is that why you felt nervous driving? Did it remind you of that? Percy asked. Yeah, I guess. Then he changed the subject. Hey, tell you what, you're a good fighter, so how about you be the team's captain tomorrow? You'll be great at that. Oh no, I'd rather not. You've been coming here longer, she said. How about co-captain? Oh, alright then. After they told the campers about the next day, Percy went off to the Poseidon cabin, where he slept, all alone. He put Annabeth's cap on his nightstand. He promised himself he'd give it to her once he would find her, just as he promised he would find her. Then Percy noticed something different in the room. A fountain in the back corner of the room, with a fish-shaped spout. Percy could guess it could have only come from his father. Thanks, Dad, he said, looking in the water. Then he noticed at the bottom was a pile of golden drachmas. Now he realized what it was for, to keep in touch with his family. Percy had already done this before. He pulled out one of the coins and said, "Oh, Iris, goddess of the rainbow, please accept my offering." Then he dropped the coin into the water again. The coin disappeared, and a rainbow was magically projected in the reflection. But then Percy couldn't think of who to contact first. His mom? That would have been the good son thing to do, but she was used to him making no contact with her for days. His dad? It had been about a year and a half since the only time they actually talked. Could he even send an Iris message to a god? He never really tried, but would it make the other gods mad? Not worth the risk. Then he made up his mind. Show me Tyson at the Forges of the Cyclopes. The rainbow water magically revealed an image of Percy's half-brother. He was surrounded in fire, which wasn't a problem since he was a Cyclops. "Hey Tyson, over here!" Percy shouted. He turned, and his one enormous eye widened and broke into excitement. "Percy!" "How you doing, big guy? How's the job?" Percy asked. "I love it," Tyson said. "Look, I made this. And I wrote my name on it." "Awesome," Percy said. "Hey, listen, I was wondering, do you talk to Dad much?" Tyson's smile faded. "No, not much. Daddy's busy. He's worried about the war. Old sea spirits, Aegeus and Oceanus, are making trouble." Percy knew what he was talking about. Immortals who ruled the oceans back in the days of the Titans before the Olympians took over. The fact that they were back now, with allies of the Titan Lord Kronos gaining strength, was not good. "Old sea spirits are protecting the bad boat, so we're arming the mermaids." "The bad boat? You mean Luke's boat, the Princess Andromeda?" Percy asked. "Yes," Tyson said. "They make it hard to find, and they protect it from Daddy's storms. Otherwise, he would smash it." "Yeah, that would help for sure," Percy said. The last time he saw Luke and his cruise ship, he'd been cruising along the East Coast recruiting half-bloods and training his monstrous army. "And now it's going far away to Panama Canal," Tyson said. Why would Luke take his ship all the way down there? Percy thought to himself. "What about Annabeth?" Tyson asked. "Is she there?" Percy didn't have the heart to tell him the truth. He would start crying so bad he'd probably put out the fires. Tyson really liked Annabeth. He thought she was the coolest thing since peanut butter. "Well, no, she's not here right now," Percy told him. "Tell her hello for me, please," Tyson asked. "Hello, Annabeth." "Okay, I'll tell her," Percy said. Then Tyson heard a screaming deep voice in the distance. "Gotta get back to work," he said. "Boss will get mad. Good luck, brother." "Okay," Percy said. "Tell Dad." But the image faded before he could finish, and Tyson was gone, and Percy felt even more lonelier than ever.